During my travel, I got a question in my Discord server. Hey, have you guys got any tips for managing hobbies? I'd like to balance loads of things: swimming, running, boxing, gym, studying, guitar, web development, but being a full time student, it's hard to get everything I want in a day. And um, the the short answer that I gave was you just gotta do things one at a time, right? It's like a buffet experience. When you go to a buffet, there's all these foods out there, and you're not gonna shove everything in your mouth because that's gonna suck. You're gonna take it in one by one, and then that's gonna be a part of a meal. But I want to take a bit of a different approach in explaining the same problem. So everything has an associated cost with it, right? So every action causes a chain reaction, and everything has kind of a ripple effect. And so in the most abstract sense, every action has a chain reaction. And we can classify some of these actions and reactions into some buckets, right? We can generalize them. Depending on our personal meters of what is good and bad, we can say, hey, like this is in the when I do good things, generally good after effects tend to happen. When I do bad things, generally bad after effects tend to happen, and so on. So basically, what I'm saying is, whenever you do something, whenever you choose something, whenever you basically think something, whenever you do anything, there's an associated after effect of that. And a way to think about this is the cost of something. Okay, so cost is just one way of viewing the after effects. Okay, so suppose I want a good college education. I want that good college education because I think it can really open some doors for me. Then I have to get student loans, or I have to study hard enough so that I can qualify for full rides to schools and things like that. Otherwise, I can't expect to go to school and not pay, right? At least in the American school system. Suppose I want a Ferrari. I want a really nice car. Means I gotta pay for a Ferrari, right? I can't realistically pay my Ferrari dealer a bicycle price because that's just not how things work. And so everything has just a different associated price tag with it. So if I can't pay the price, then I have to stop wanting it. Because all that wanting does is just giving me more suffering, right? So, I can't afford a Lambo right now. But the more I want a Lambo, the more I desire a Lambo, the more I think that Lambo is the solution to all my life's problems. But I can't get it, right? So, maybe Lambo's a different example because Lambo, I could get the money for it. But, okay, suppose my grandma. I want my grandma to be alive. She passed. And I miss my grandma very much. I want to show her what 37-year-old Billy is like. But she's no longer with me. But the more I want her to come back to life, what does that do for me? It does nothing. It does nothing in terms of bringing my grandma back alive. So that's the important thing, right? Like the cost that's associated with my desire of wanting my grandma to come back to life is just suffering. So when we have many desires like this that we cannot fulfill, we have to understand the associated cost is suffering. And the faster we realize that it's a silly thing to be engaged in, continuing to want things that are outside of my control or unrealistic or impossible, the more it just adds to the suffering of my life. So when you become wise to that, then you start making more intelligent and more sensible and wiser choices so that you don't suffer. Because nobody wants to willingly suffer, right? Nobody wants to willingly suffer for no good reason. Now, but if there are things that you can do, right? Then you can think of it like Lambo example. Okay, so I can't get a Lambo, but I really want a Lambo. Therefore, I'm gonna make a lot of money in order to pay for the Lambo. So, if you have lots of hobbies that you want to balance in your day, one thing you can do is just sleep less, right? And that's the cost that you have to pay in order to fit everything inside of a day, right? That means you are willingly going to pay the lack of a free time and lack of sleep so that you can purchase the ability to do all the hobbies at once in one day. And if you cannot, then you just don't pay that price. But one thing to keep in mind though is when we make these transactional exchanges with our mind, that cost I don't think I can pay. That cost maybe I may be able to pay. When we're doing that cost analysis, what we tend to do is we tend to estimate that based on our current capacity. We tend to estimate it based on previous experiences. And therefore, when you fall into this trap, what tends to happen is you become the koi fish in a small pond. I don't know if you've heard about this before, but the koi fish that's popular in like any kind of a pond or anything, right? It grows in proportion to the size of the pond. Maybe it's some other fish, but you get the gist of what I'm saying, right? You put the same fish in a pond that's this big, the fish will only be this big. But when you put the fish in a pond that's this big, the fish will grow a lot more, right? So when we do these types of cost estimates for our lives, it's important to sit down and think about, what if I can do this? What if I can do all of this? Or maybe I think I can do 2 in a day. But what if I can do 3 and it wouldn't really negatively impact the quality of my life, and it would actually improve it because I'm doing more things, even if I have a little bit of a less free time, right? So always looking at your future evaluations and considering the growth of your capacity. That is very important in considering these cost estimates about your life choices.